Being a guest on podcasts that share your ideal audience is one of the most successful ways to grow your podcast and brand reach. We call this audience sharing. The key to becoming a sought-after podcast guest is to have a clear message so hosts can quickly and easily understand the value you bring to their audience. The looser your message, the harder it'll be to become a top choice. You'll be one of many versus the best of a few. If you've invested in your marketing and branding process, you'll know this sounds a lot like niching down and differentiating. Being a great guest goes beyond being a good conversationalist. It's getting good at sharing the right stories and adding value to the show. To become a sought-after podcast guest, you must refine your message and build relationships. This process starts way before you ever get booked on a show. So the first thing you need to do is refine your message. If you've watched the show Friends, you know the group never understood what Chandler did for work. Unfortunately, this happens to multi-talented or multidisciplined people, making it challenging for others to understand what they do and why. Chances are, if you're on this video, my blog, my website, wherever you are a thought leader, author, podcaster, or social good entrepreneur. You have a specific message. Even if you can authoritatively talk on many subjects, there is a plumb line that brings it all together. If you haven't already refined your message and brand, and y'all, I am not talking logos here, it's time to do the work. Because if hosts don't have a clear idea of the value you bring to the table for specific topics, chances are your branding is too loose in other areas. The clearer your message is, the easier it will be for hosts to understand the value of booking you as a guest. So, a couple things you can do to refine your message and improve. Ask yourself, can you easily communicate the problem you want to solve? And do you have a proposed solution with a unique perspective? I want you to work on your elevator pitch. How quickly and clearly can you share your core message with others? So I've mentioned it a little already, but another big thing you've got to do is demonstrate your value. The value you bring as a guest is not the same as your expertise. It's not even your experience. For example, you could be an economist, but the value you might bring to a podcast would be your ability to help people living paycheck to paycheck understand what changes in the economy means for everyday life and how to prepare better. The value is clear what you would bring to their audience as an economist. By sharing the value you bring to an area of expertise, hosts can better understand how you can connect with their target audience. Boom. The value you bring to the table is typically your unique perspective and passion for a specific area within your expertise. It makes you unique and is usually right in line with your brand differentiation. So here are a couple of examples of expertise versus value. Your expertise might be personal finance, but the value and unique perspective might be how Hispanic entrepreneurs can create a legacy for their children. Your expertise might be marketing and podcasting, but your value and unique perspective might be how social good entrepreneurs can apply time-tested marketing strategies to a podcast to create a movement. That's why we're here, y'all. And another example, expertise might be organizational culture, but your value and unique perspective might be how organizational culture is a competitive advantage that'll curb the Great Resignation. When you clearly demonstrate and show your value, it makes it way easier for hosts to understand not only how to set up an interview, but how to promote your episode. So the next thing I want you to do is pretty obvious. Work on your value proposition. How clearly can you communicate the unique value and perspective you bring to a conversation about key topics? All right, our next step is pretty obvious. You got to develop clear talking points. A big mistake people make is developing many talking points instead of focusing on a few very targeted messages where they bring maximum value. We can't be all things to all people. It's just not possible. And there's freedom in that. You'll be encouraged to niche down and refine your message in any branding and marketing process. This is also true when developing clear talking points as a guest. You want to be very specific when you bullet out your talking points on your online press kit, PDF, or email. It's the difference between discussing economics and how economics influences people living below the poverty line, or being a professional ballerina versus professional ballet dancers discussing how cross-training has evolved, or being an expert in organizational psychology, but being a thought leader on what data reveals about orgs and how C-suite leadership needs to evolve to retain employees. Your unique insight should shine through when you list your talking points. In other words, they are not generic. So, next step, work on a list of 5 really clear talking points and add your unique value to each topic. So, the next thing you got to do is craft your story and key stories. Once you fully understand your expertise versus your value and have a strong list of topics you can address, it's time to explore key stories and personal experiences you can share related to these topics. Storytelling plays a significant role in not sounding like a salesperson during an interview. No one cares about your books, your brand, or your message until they care about you. And storytelling is one of the most valuable tools you can use in teaching and in marketing. So whether someone listens to an academic lecture or a podcast, they don't remember your 4 points of transformation. They remember the story you tell to illustrate those points. Stories are what listeners and hosts go on to share with others. Great storytelling combines vulnerability and strong execution. When a guest can deliver an honest story that shares an emotional and maybe even literal journey, they do better at creating something memorable for the listener and the host. To avoid telling the same stories over and over, y'all, it happens a lot, mine your experiences often. Develop personal stories you can share in interviews. Being a clear and captivating storyteller is one of the keys to becoming a sought-after guest. I'm going to say it's one of the most important keys. So the next thing you got to do is pretty obvious. Go develop a list of personal stories for each of your talking points. Come up with a main story around your value proposition and ask yourself what happened in life that led to this unique perspective. Okay, gosh, every single one of these points is so important, but this is a big one. You've got to know the host's message and audience. Great conversations come from building relationships and creating what I love to call rhythm. Rhythm is that dynamic between the guest and the host that makes magic for the listeners. You have a better chance of creating rhythm with the host if you've done your homework on their show and their audience. Doing your homework on the host and their audience will help you better craft your message and even cultivate stories that will be especially relevant to the show. The beauty of being a podcast guest is that there are likely boatloads of episodes you can listen to before your interview to learn more about the host. As a result, you can show up to an interview knowing critical details about the host's message and even inside jokes between the host and listeners that will create dynamic and fun conversation. If the host enjoys time with you, they'll invite you back. And if the listener hears the host enjoying the conversation, they will seek out more from you. So next steps, y'all. Listen to previous episodes and write down core messages and stories from the host for your next interview. Get an idea of who they are, where they're from, what they care about, and the show's core message. And another thing you got to pay attention to is what does the host say about their listeners? And then ask yourself, what personal stories do you have that are relevant to the host and their audience? So we've talked a lot about the things you got to do, and I have lots of suggestions, but obviously there is flow in conversation, and you need to be generous in your conversation. Have you ever talked to someone and felt like the listener didn't listen to you, but just responded with their next point, regardless of what you had to say? Responding to respond instead of listening deeply is precisely what you don't want to do as a podcast guest, and it's a fast way to lose rhythm in an interview. So instead, while you are the highlight of the episode, your goal should be to build a relationship with the host. A great interviewer is going to make you the conversation's hero and ask you to go deeper every time you tell a story. But to achieve a compelling dynamic, you must lean in as they lead. So yes, you have your key talking points, you have key stories, you understand your value and why you're there, but it all should come together naturally. And it comes together naturally by paying attention and leaning into the conversation. When they ask for more, be honest and share how you felt and what you thought. This is where it comes back to mining your personal experiences. When you mine your personal story and done your homework on key messaging, all of this gets a lot easier in real time. When they ask you to lean in, you have stories in your back pocket. Remember, the audience doesn't care about what you have to sell or what you're about until they care about you as a person. So, go with the ebbs and flow of the conversation. Let the host lead the dance and share openly and honestly. If you've done your homework, you know why you're there, and it's less about selling and more about sharing personal experiences that align with the show's message. When you do this well and have a clear call to action somewhere in the interview, probably queued up by the host, people will be more likely to act. So be you. You're enough. Next steps, again, pretty obvious. Practice listening deeply in everyday conversation and carefully following up in each interaction. Practicing in everyday life is great. It's a simple way to prep for an interview. And work on going deeper in all of your core messaging. Dig into your thoughts, actions, and conscious or unconscious responses. Go deep so that way you can lean in during an interview. All right, next thing, you've got to prepare your online press kit. Every speaker needs one. From a practical standpoint, you want something easy you can send to hosts with high-resolution photos, your bio, social media links, and more. Make it easy for hosts to promote you. I typically encourage you to build an online press kit off your brand website. So it's like whatever your website is, .com/press kit. Or if you have another site that applies to the message you're trying to promote as a guest, that works too. You just need something. It can be a PDF, it can be a link and to something on your website. So your next steps, again, pretty easy. Either go create a landing page off your website that you can share with your press kit information, or go create a PDF on something like Canva. Your press kit should have a bio, high-resolution photo they can download, your speaking topics, education experience, what qualifies you, and any other media you think is relevant. If you're really trying to put yourself out there and you're on websites that match shows to guests, you need to create your Why Me speaker video. Podcast guest pairing sites like Matchmaker ask hosts to create a Why Me video for their profile. It's a quick way for hosts to get an idea of their personality, differentiation, and value proposition. Your Why Me video addresses all the points we've covered. It needs a clear message that shows the value and unique perspective you bring to topics based on your experience and expertise. And most of all, the best Why Me videos are told through the lens of a personal story. Use that key story around your core message to illustrate why you are the right guest for a certain type of podcast. Remember, you cannot be all things to all people. Next, go create your video. When you write your script, answer these questions. Who are you and what is your experience plus expertise? How do your experiences inform a unique perspective you have for your area of expertise? Share your value proposition. How will your expertise and unique perspective benefit the host audience? Big one there, benefit the host audience. And then what transformation do you hope listeners experience after you're a guest on the show? If you can answer these 4 questions really well with a bit of storytelling, you are going to have a stellar Why Me video that converts. You can also go sign up for Matchmaker or podcasts and go develop your profile using all the tools you've learned in this video. Also, you can get your Why Me video on your press kit landing page. Honestly, it can be used for lots of things. If you're a thought leader and you're trying to go book gigs, this video can apply to a lot of stuff. All right, remember when I said you want to make it easy for hosts to promote you and you need to create a press kit and all that stuff? This leads right into our next point. You have to develop your online platforms. When hosts do their homework and research on podcast guests, they don't just look at your profile on guest matching platforms. They will seek you out on social media. If you don't control what people see and read about you, they will develop assumptions based on what they do not see. Your online footprint creates an impact, whether you try or not. One of my favorite consulting and coaching mentors preaches this message in her brand development work, and she is spot on. You need to evaluate your online footprint as you increase your brand reach. It's vital for anyone trying to increase their podcast guesting to review their social media and make sure it reflects the message, aesthetic, and tone you want to convey. So your next steps, pretty obvious. Do an online platform audit. What do you want prospective hosts and their listeners to see? You need to create a plan and clean up your branded platforms. Almost everybody's got to do this from time to time. Ask yourself, do your graphics, videos, posts create a clear and clean branded look? Do they share the right message? Is your value proposition clear? All right, guys, to recap, we're going to do some quick podcast guest do's and don'ts. Do listen deeply and adjust with the flow of the conversation. Do your research on the host and the show. Listen to at least 3 episodes. Create a relationship and don't sell yourself. It doesn't work, y'all. People don't care about what you have to offer until they care about you. I will say that till the end of time. Develop key stories that inform your unique perspective around your area of expertise. Create your online press kit. Make it easy for the host to promote you. Create your Why Me video and get it up on speaker profiles or on your website or whatever you're going to use to get booked. Evaluate your online footprint and create a strong plan. Make sure that your social media reflects what you want it to reflect. And this is a big one, guys. Make sure you have good audio and video. It doesn't have to be high production quality. It just has to be solid. You don't want a host to scrap an interview because your audio was crap. Excuse my language. But if you're outside in the wind, if you're using a cell phone that's brushing everywhere, if you have a headset that's, creating all the static noise because it's rubbing up against your shirt, that's not going to work. Plan ahead of time. Respect their time and respect yours. This is an opportunity. And that means do the prep work. If the host asked you to prepare in advance to send things over, get it done. And lose your ego. Have a good time. The best interviews are vulnerable and comfortable. All right, let's talk about the big don'ts. Don't show up to an interview without researching the host and the show. Don't only talk about your brand without sharing personal stories, experiences, and details that cultivate relationship. Don't speak over the host or press on to your next point instead of going with the flow of the conversation. You're not there to make a point. You're there to build a relationship. Don't ignore the recommended prep work from the show, whatever it is. Don't show up with bad audio and video on your end. Prepare in advance. Respect your time, respect theirs. Make sure that episode is usable. And don't skip promoting your interview. When you've done the work and have a great time, you have something valuable in your hands. Share it to your platform. Okay, if you found this video helpful, I want you to go check out our podcast growth membership at Hollyfield Consulting. For just $25 a month, hosts get access to a growing library of tools and templates that are easy to apply. Stop wasting time and dollars with experts and get time-tested marketing paths to growth. You'll access templates you can put into action in your next episode to improve quality. Receive the encouragement you need to keep showing up for your audience. You'll get strategies for producing the right content and not wasting time. And you'll gain the insights you need to feel confident in your podcast production and paths to growth. Go to hollyfieldconsulting.com to learn more. For just $25 a month, hosts get tools for ongoing episode creation, templates for promoting their podcast with ease, and so much more. Just visit hollyfieldconsulting.com. See you there.